All right. Hello, my wonders. Here it is. A little bit of a witch's commentary on Imbolg. Just my commentary, one witch's perspective. I do not speak for all witches or Wiccans or really anyone but me. I speak for me. And I welcome you to my channel and my mental insanity and I don't know, to this moment in this day, in this night, and whoever you are in this moment, I hope that you are having a wondrous time. And obviously, you've gotten a little bit curious or something. Something made you click on this link. So, welcome to my little exploration, which I'm recording live because I am working on overcoming my resistance. And my way of lowering the wall is to essentially take out all the extra work that comes with getting a video online. Because when you do it online or do it live, it just straight onto YouTube. So, that's happening. Oh, yeah, no issues, no fear here. So let's talk about Imbolc with the C or G. Take your pick. I don't know. I feel sometimes like, did I just get the spelling kind of weirdly missed in my head? Or am I just old school and we used to spell it with the G more and now we spell it with the C? Not really sure. Pretty sure it's probably a Gaelic word because pretty much all the fire festivals, most of the Sabbath's names for paganism, Wiccans, witches, most of them are, I want to say Gaelic in nature. They're from somewhere in the British Isles, except for Ostara and Yule, which are from the Norse background. So I'm not going to give you a really strong history lesson. That is not my strength. That is something you can Google. Go check out Wikipedia if you want. There will be plenty of things out in the world that will tell you about the history of Imbolg and all those kind of things. I'll throw out a few things for you right up front so we're kind of all same page, but I'm not going to go deep in it because, again, not my strength. So Imbolg is and you can see from the pronunciation that g, k, very similar sound. I feel like it's just us trying to express what was happening in the Gaelic. Anyhow, it's February 1st. I feel like sometimes February 2nd seems fair. And it's considered a fire festival. Now, why are fire festivals fire festivals? I don't know that I can tell you. I can tell you that what some would call the cross-quarter festivals. So it's Imbolg, Beltane, Lunasa, and Samhain. These are the four fire festivals or the cross-quarter festivals. The other ones, Ostara, Litha, Mabon, and Yule, are solar festivals. They're based off of this relationship of the sun and the earth, right? We are solstices and equinoxes are the solar festivals. Those are not what's on the table today. I am talking first. We're starting in the general of fire festivals, which cross quarters. So the other ones, the solar ones, being so very clock-like, right? Like the longest night, the shortest day, the longest day, the shortest night. Like these are everything is completely even. Like they are so metronomical, if you will, that we can precisely map them to pretty much the second. They are that much of a physical occurrence of a specific relationship in time. The fire festivals are not that. So quarters and then cross quarters, somewhere in between. And you can, and I have seen people do this, take a very, same kind of approach to the fire festivals where they take, for Imbolg, it would be taking Yule and taking Ostara and the precise times of that in this particular year and dividing it in half. And that in halfness date would be the date that they would do Imbolg, which I get it, but at the same time, totally doesn't work for me because I feel that there are actually two different systems that are in relationship to each other, but are best handled within their own system in a different way. So by taking that very astronomical approach, I feel like we're applying the properties of the solar system. That was not intentional, but kind of fun regardless. So the solar system to the Terran system, the fire festivals, and I'm calling it Terran because this is my belief, not a fact, that what we see in the fire festivals is the response of our planet, Terra, to the astronomical changes. So, for example, Imbolg happens after Yule. We've just passed Yule. Yule has just happened. So, at that moment of Yule, we had um, we essentially flipped the switch of we're going into darkness, into darkness, into darkness, into darkness. Oh, now we're coming back into light. Like we switched from the days, uh, essentially like lights getting shorter to lights getting longer. That's Yule. And then at Ostara, it'll be half and half. So Imbolg is, I mean, you could say it's a quarter, three quarters. And that's again, that very astronomical, very solar system approach to it. Now I'm viewing it for fun, I admit it. But what if instead we were to view it from a Terran perspective of, okay, so there was this shift and the days are getting longer. What that means for this planet, for this place where we live, for our ecosystems. We do not see a change, right? Like winter is strong at the time of Yule, and I swear it actually gets stronger, right? Like the cold it's like it's catching up. And what I find is that our relationship with the sun always takes a while to manifest into nature. Like, yes, okay, it's shifted, but it takes a while. It's like trying to heat. It's like trying to heat the ocean. It's trying to heat a pool. You can't just heat it instantaneously. Having an impact on something with that much complexity and size and inertia behind it takes a while for the change to manifest real results. So the change happened at Yule. The manifesting results, we start to see it in bulk. And that's the base concept of Imbolc, which is, when I have not spoken of, the start of spring. Now, I have seen so many, maybe it's a layperson discussion thing, but first day of spring is Ostara. It's the equinox. No, at the equinox, at Ostara, spring is sprung. Spring is there. There is no doubt, no question. We have ourselves a spring. What happens at Imbolg is snowdrops come up, maybe some crocuses come up, maybe a few other, life awakening things start to happen. It's like life goes, I need the without the glasses. Life goes in that moment. Just the start of it. This is not a full blown, everything's fully arrived sense. And that's the thing about all the fire festivals. They are these transition points. They are what was is still very present, but the start of something next is begun, is beginning, and is becoming apparent. So that growing light is becoming apparent. And we see, I want to pun about parents, but resisting. But that's what we're seeing. We are not at the end of winter. Not yet. Where I live in Vancouver, British Columbia. And honestly, we tend to get more snow, January, February, heck, March, God, April, January. No, we didn't get snow in June. But we don't actually get snow, or we didn't used to before the whole climate crisis thing. We didn't get snow until usually after Yule. It was very rare to get snow before it. And if you got snow on Yule, growing up, it was Christmas Day. Oh my goodness, we had a white Christmas. Like, so weird. So rare. And now it's like, we're having a white Christmas, or it's snowing before Christmas. Well, that's not unusual anymore. My age is showing. So that bringing light, we actually are seeing the increase impact of more sun, more daylight in the life goes, oh, okay, it's time to start coming out. It starts to begin that part of the cycle. So that for me is what happens at all the cross quarter days. And here's the little bonus round on Groundhog Day. Little personal theory, which I think holds a lot of water, which was almost intentional and relevant in about 2 minutes. Groundhog Day, February 2nd. Look at that date. Come on. The date itself just screams it. You know, it's the secular version of Imbolg. You have here a little creature who, if he sees his shadow and runs away, it's 6 more weeks of winter. Um, yeah, it's when he sees his shadow, which means that it's a really bright day. And you probably are thinking, well, hey, if it's overcast, then what the heck? Why is that the more winter? Because if it's a clear sky, oh, it's cold. It is cold, it is bright, it is very wintry. I actually, I find that. I live in a rainforest. Spring is rain. Spring is all about the water. Again, about a minute and a half out now. The groundhog uh, lore, that groundhog tradition to me is, I mean, it's a kind of a farmer's almanac-y. I mean, it's not a farmer's almanac thing, but it comes from that. It comes from these really agrarian traditions of how to look and engage with the land and understand what it's telling you in regards to what's happening weather-wise. But why does this happen on February 2nd? Well, because February 2nd is like, yeah, we're all going, hey, what what's happening? What's happening with this whole winter spring thing? Hey, have you heard? I mean, that's what we're doing. We're going and wanting to engage with that now as Wiccans and witches and pagans. Oh my! What are we doing with Imbolc? What are we doing with any of the Sabbats? We could always engage with encouraging the energy forward. Maybe we're like, fuck, we need more winter. You know, and we have those some kind of beetle that was doing really nasty things to trees because we stopped having winters in the same way. Hello, climate crisis. What really does those beetles in is a nice harsh winter. So maybe a longer, harsher winter, clean out some of those mosquitoes could be a good thing. Or maybe it's like, oh my God, we don't do a winter like this. We need to move this along. We can, as magical folk, offer up our engagement into encouraging a particular path. Mostly, I kind of trust that nature's got our own deal going on, and so I kind of offer up whatever it is that Tara needs in order to go to the healthiest version. And fucked if I know what that answer is. So I just go, I love you, and what do you need? And let me see if I can give that to you. Yeah. All right. So Imbolc, here we are. We're traveling forward. We've got this whole, oh, yes, okay, life. All right, I was talking about Groundhog Day. That was me recapturing my train of thought. I used to be better at it. And the older I get, the more drugs due to illness and, well, not even illness. Yeah, I guess cancer's an illness. But more drugs due to illness and injury that I have. Like every time I hit a decade turning over, I get those moments. I find my ability to retain gets a little more questionable, or to stay on track, to pull myself back to track. Of course, could also just be age. So the groundhog is, to me, a very secular embodiment of an Imbolc ritual, and the fact that it falls on February 2nd just screams to me that this is a holdover, and has become something in popular mythology that is an expression of what we do as magical folk, kind of like Halloween. Same thing. While I'm having that moment, because Halloween pulled me into the thought about namings of things, I just want to say Imbolg is a very pagan-based word. It relates to mother's milk, which also water. Maybe 30 seconds out now. My sense of time is very questionable. It is not Candlemas. If you are calling any pagan festival by a name that ends in MAS, which, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. Go for it. You do you. I just want you to understand what you are calling it, which is its Christianized name, because it has been Christianized. MAS is for mass. So if you're calling it that, you have switched over to a Christian name, which is why I will never call it that. I call it Imbolc. And I also want to pull into, this is where it gets kind of interesting for me in another level, an energetic component to it. So in the rise and fall of things, I also, as with many others, ascribe an element to the seasons. I do it differently than a fair number of my contemporaries because I do, because I've actually spent a lot of time thinking about this and going, what makes sense in our new world? We are shifting into a new time and a new perspective. So maybe it's time that we kind of evaluate what makes sense now as opposed to what made sense 20 years ago, 50 years ago, several hundred years ago, perhaps, if you feel that some of these things actually travel back that far in time. Questionable. But I'm not getting into that debate because I am not, will never be a historian. So, obviously, if you're talking about Candlemas, this is very much a candle and a fire quality to it. Now, this is separate from being a fire festival. Fire festivals may just be called that because bonfires were lit on these particular nights. They're very agrarian. Now I'm going to actually just talk about fire as an element in relation. So you could consider and work with fire for this ritual. Sure, that happens a lot, actually. I invite you instead to play with it as a water ritual, which actually embraces, instead of, yeah, I'm totally picking back off of this, but the Christian name being candle driven and the Gaelic, I'm assuming, based name being steeped in that mother's milk, which means liquid, right? So pulling into that as well. I really appreciate engaging with spring as a season of water. Perhaps it's because, again, I live in a rainforest, but more than that, what happens when winter thaws? The snow thaws and you get water. Everything that was hard and stiff and frozen becomes loose and flowing and moving. And so that's also the energy that we're starting to move into. We are not thawed yet. That will be happening as we move into Ostara, at which point we should be, well, nicely thawed. This is an advantage, quite frankly, of where I live because I live in a very temperate zone. I have 4 seasons very distinctly, and it's easy to watch them move in a roughly 3-month segment of the year. Really common. Advantages for me. Some places don't have that. And I think it would be really interesting to play with and explore how it is that if you really only have 2 seasons because you have a whole heck of a lot of winter or you have very little of it, what that solar shift of increasing sun exposure causes in your land. What is that impact? What do you see happen after that shift has happened? And before we actually reach the point of balance, like what indicators are in your world that, yeah, there is more solar exposure that is happening. I'd say tell me in the comments. Well, I've turned off all the comments because, frankly, if I go looking at comments, I'll just get extra sad and I probably won't actually engage very much. Cedric. 1, 2, I do not have time to engage with and read comments. I mean, I barely have time to make this happen. So, sorry, much as I want to support community, etc., my comments are turned off. Maybe someday they'll change. Not now. So while I'm very curious about that, that is a curiosity that will have to wait until other opportunities present themselves. All right. So as I was saying, water, what if spring is the season of water? Then Imbolg is the start of that, the starting of the melting. The things are not melted yet. It's probably going to be a lot of cold, but that movement is beginning. That flow is starting to happen, and then letting water be the season that comes from now until, well, yeah, belting, and when we shift again. Now, if you're wondering what was the season that we're coming out of, for me, it's fire. Super weird. I know most people want to say the winter, it's earth. And I go, actually, I would say there is no earth element. There's a stone element because I'm crazy that way. Also a great reason for me to have comments turned off so people can't freak out about my weird perspective to me, and I actually end up paying attention to it. So yeah, I don't put stone in the north for reasons that will come up when we actually hit the season of stone, which is coming after the season of water. But for me, I'm just coming out of the season of fire because heck, it was cold. So having fire and engaging with that fire ice dynamic, so great and powerful at that time. So yeah, we're coming out of fire. And thus, it also additionally intrigues me that idea of working with fire at Imbolg, because then you can start playing with, well, what happens if we were to release fire at Imbolg and invite in more water? What happens with that shift? Um, and I think on that note, that's actually where I'm going to leave it all. I don't have in my soul, in my brain right now, any other rambling thoughts to share about Imbolg. So this is, well, it's my perspective as a witch, as a, I guess, practicing witch for a long time now, today in 2023 about Imbolg. Take great care of yourself. Blessings of the weird and the wild and the wonders to you. Blessed be.